Can I get a raise? I understand. The company just can't afford it. How many times have you heard that? People keep saying the same things over and over. Higher wages kill jobs. Higher wages will close small businesses. Higher wages cause inflation. Higher wages just make companies replace people with robots faster. And yeah, maybe some of that is true in certain situations. But here's the question nobody seems to want to touch. Why is the entire conversation always laser focused on what regular workers supposedly can't afford? And almost never about what the executives at the very top clearly can. Welcome to Mr. Point, the podcast where we chase facts, not feelings. No team jerseys, no culture war noise, just real curiosity and honest questions. Let's be super fair right from the start. Here are the strongest arguments against raising wages, and they're not dumb. The Congressional Budget Office ran the numbers and said a $15 federal minimum wage could cost up to 1.4 million jobs. When California bumped fast food wages up to $20 an hour in 2024, analysts warned of big trouble. And later data actually showed thousands of fast food jobs disappearing compared to other states. Small businesses already survive on razor-thin margins. One extra cost could push them under. Companies often pass higher labor costs straight to customers, which feeds inflation. And yes, when people get more expensive, robots suddenly look a lot more attractive. These concerns are real. They matter. If they play out at scale, they affect millions of lives. But here's where the conversation takes a sharp turn. We put every single extra dollar that might go to regular workers under a microscope. We debate it, study it, even panic about it. Yet when it comes to the massive dollars going to executives, the same intense scrutiny just disappears. That double standard, that's exactly where the real story begins. Let's talk numbers that will actually blow your mind. In 1965, the typical CEO made about 20 times what the average worker earned. Today, in America's biggest companies, it's more than 280 times, sometimes pushing 300 or higher. And that's according to the latest research from the Economic Policy Institute. Pause for a second and think about that. Let that sink in. The gap didn't just magically appear. It was built step by step. So let's break down 3 of the biggest reasons it exploded. Number 1 is the stock pay explosion. Starting in the 1990s, most CEO pay switched to company stock and stock options. Stock market goes up, CEO pay skyrockets. Meanwhile, since 1979, American workers have become roughly 75% more productive. They make way more stuff, way more efficiently. But their real pay has only gone up about 18 to 26%. If harder work and better output are supposed to mean higher pay, why does that rule only seem to apply to the people at the top? Number 2, we have the big policy shifts in the 1980s. Under Reagan, taxes on the highest earners dropped dramatically. Unions, the groups that actually fought for worker pay and benefits, got crushed in power, and it became much easier for money to travel around the world. You can argue forever about whether those changes were good or bad, but the result is crystal clear in the data. Workers' slice of the national income got way smaller. The slice going to owners, investors, and executives got a lot bigger. That's not opinion, that's math. Part 3 are stock buybacks and incentives. In 1982, a quiet SEC rule made it super easy for companies to buy back their own stock. Buybacks pump up earnings per share, which pumps up the stock price, which pumps up CEO pay because most of their money is tied to that stock. Companies now spend hundreds of billions of dollars every year on these buybacks. So here's the uncomfortable question. If they can afford to throw billions at boosting their own stock price, why is giving regular workers a decent raise always called unsustainable? We hear non-stop scale warnings about the dangers of raising wages. Fine, let's flip the script. What are the proven, documented macroeconomic dangers of simply reducing executive compensation? Would innovation suddenly die? Would capital flee the country? Would productivity collapse? Show me the strong evidence. Because honestly, there isn't much. If cutting sky-high executive pay doesn't actually wreck the economy, then we've only been grilling one side of the equation this whole time. That tells you the debate is really not about affordability. It's about power. It's about who gets to decide where the money actually goes. They love to tell us, your pay reflects your productivity. Okay, but when workers have been dramatically more productive for decades and their wages barely moved, executive pay never seems to come down to match. If productivity is the rule, apply it to everyone. Otherwise, it's not a principle. It's just a convenient rule that only applies to the people at the bottom. When fear runs the conversation, but only ever lands on workers, you're not watching neutral economics anymore. You're watching the protection of a very specific set of incentives. The loudest debates often hide the simplest, most obvious imbalance. We fight tooth and nail to keep workers from getting even a little more. We almost never ask whether executives actually need as much as they're getting. And when the shouting is way louder than the actual evidence, that's not noise. That's a narrative. And that is the point we miss. And I think this is where we're going to call it quits. I absolutely love having you on this deconstruction ride with me. And if this has brought you any perspective, even allowed you to change your mind on how you look at things, whether you agree or not, then please subscribe and give this a like. This helps us continue our fantastic voyage, slicing and dicing through everyday things folks like us are being told in order to deceive or control the narrative. Here, we won't let them get away with it. Until next time, my friends, stay vigilant, stay alert, and don't fall for the okie doke. Peace.